The greatest season in Angels history, the one that ended with manager Mike Scioscia lifting the 2002 World Series trophy over his head with general manager Bill Stoneman and former owner Mike Scioscia at his side, was on the verge of collapse late in April that year. A 15-6 thrashing at the hands of the Seattle Mariners on April 22 and a 1-0 loss in Safeco Field the following night dropped the Angels to 6-14, their worst 20-game start in franchise history. Advertisement: pitchers had a 5.22 earned run average and allowed a major league high 30 homers through 20 games. Hitters produced a .607 on base plus slugging percentage and a major league low 8 homers. 3-part series. Part 1, Mike Scioscia joins the Angels. Part 2, Mike Scioscia leads Angels to 2002 World Series title. Part 3, Friday, Mike Scioscia's managerial legacy. A team with division title hopes was already 10.5 games back, and Stoneman was fielding calls from reporters asking if the manager's job was in jeopardy. "We had a team meeting in Seattle, and that was the first time he had air us out," former Angels right fielder Tim Salmon said of Scioscia, who is expected to step down after this season, his 19th with the Angels. But it was more of a plea. "Look, we have a good thing here, but if we don't get this thing going, we're going to get back home, and they're going to blow this thing up." That was the first time we had seen another side of him, the frustration. The Angels celebrate their World Series victory. Eric Risberg, Associated Press. Scioscia, in his third season at the Angels' helm, raised eyebrows the next day by inserting light-hitting reserve outfielder Orlando Palmeiro in the know. Palmeiro had 3 hits and 2 runs in a 10-6 victory over the Mariners, sparking an 8-game win streak that trimmed the division deficit to 5.5 games. The Angels won 12 of 13 games from May 8 to 22, cranking out 24 hits in a 19-0 win over the Chicago White Sox on May 10, to move to within 1.5 games of first place. While the eventual AL West champion Oakland Athletics won 20 straight from August 13 to Sept. 4, the Angels, like a second-place race car drafting behind the leader, won 18 of 20 games from August 29 to September 17, en route to a 99-win season that netted a wild-card berth. "I think the 2002 team was exactly the type of team he wanted to manage personnel-wise," pitcher Jared Washburn, the ace of the 2002 staff, said of Scioscia. "It was a bunch of no-nonsense, gritty, unselfish players who were willing to do the little things. We ran the bases hard and took the extra base. We went first to third, on singles. We'd steal a base when it was there without being silly aggressive. And Scioscia was never afraid to bunt and move guys over when you had to." The 2002 Angels were polar opposites of the 2018 Dodgers. They didn't need to hit home runs. They manufactured runs with on-base ability, aggressive base running and clutch hits. They had scrappy table setters at the top of the order in David Eckstein and Darren Erstad, some heft in the middle with Salmon, Garrett Anderson, Troy Glaus and Brad Fulmer, and good production at the bottom with Scott Spiezio, Bengie Molina and Adam Kennedy. The Angels ranked 10th in the American League with 152 homers but first in batting average .282, third in doubles 333, third in stolen bases 117, fourth in OBP .341, and tied for first in average with runners in scoring position .290. They led the league in sacrifice hits 49, hit by pitches 74, and had the fewest strikeouts 805. They had 43 come from behind wins, 12 when trailing after 6 innings. The offense was supported by a solid rotation and a rebuilt bullpen that went from shaky in April to lights out in September. The promotion of rookie right-hander John Lackey from AAA in late June pushed left-hander Scott Schoenweis to a relief role, bolstering the rotation and the bullpen. Scott Shields was called up in mid-June. Brendan Donnelly was recalled for good in mid-July. A little-known 20-year-old right-hander named Francisco Rodriguez was called up in mid-September. A bullpen that leaned heavily on the likes Lupot, Dunwall, Al Levine, Dennis Cook and Mark Lukasevich in April turned ferocious by September, with Donnelly and Rodriguez, with his wicked fastball slider mix, setting up closer Troy Percival. Ben Weber, Shields and Schoenweiss provided middle and long relief. As the wins piled up for the Angels, their confidence grew. Self-doubt of April was replaced by a September swagger. The Angels steamed toward October with the steady hand of Scioscia keeping them on track. "It's easy as a player to say, oh, yeah, I'll do anything you want to win. They all say that," said Boston Red Sox bench coach Ron Roenicke, the Angels' third base coach in 2002. But to have players who truly feel that way? To get a whole team doing that? That's pretty special. That was definitely the goal in 2002, and you could see by the way they played. I don't think there's any way we would have won if players didn't buy into that quickly. I think what Mike brought in allowed those good players to play better and some of the other fringe players to play really well. Scioscia preached one game at a time. He was even-keeled, almost stoic, in the dugout and clubhouse. Nothing seemed to rattle him. He was the same guy at 6-14 as he was when we won 18 of 20, Washburn said. It didn't matter if you won the night before by a lopsided score or suffered a huge loss. You showed up the next day and knew exactly what you were getting. Mike Scioscia addresses fans during the celebration of the Angels World Series championship. Reed Saxon, Associated Press. That approach paid immediate dividends in the playoffs. The Angels were heavy underdogs in the division series, with the projected lineup of the New York Yankees holding a 296-0 edge in games of playoff experience. With 2 outs in the bottom of the 8th inning of Game 1 and the Angels clinging to a 1-run lead in Yankee Stadium, Scioscia summoned Schoenweiss, and not Percival, who was ready to face Jason Giambi with 2 on. Giambi hit a single to tie the score. Bernie Williams followed with a 3-run homer off Donnelly to lift the Yankees to an 8-5 victory. The following day, before any questions could be asked in a news conference, Scioscia grinned said, "Who would have brought Percival in? Give me a show of hands. Everybody's hand has got to go up." Scioscia's humor seemed to diffuse the controversy and disarm reporters. The Angels scored 4 runs in the final 2 innings of both an 8-6 win in Game 2 and a 9-6 win in Game 3. They clinched the series with a 9-5 Game 4 win, blowing the game open with an 8-run, 5th inning. "We had never been to the playoffs, but I think we were able to relax and play the way we had all year because Mike didn't change," Washburn said. He had been down that road before, with the Dodgers. He knew what to expect, and we were kind of feeding off him. The next day after that Game 1 loss, we showed up and everything was the same in the clubhouse as it was for the past 4 months. So we were like, oh, I guess we're just going to play another game today. We rebounded nicely. Advertisement: the Angels throttled Minnesota in a 5-game AL championship series. Kennedy hit 3 homers in the Game 5 clincher, the Angels sending 15 batters to the plate during a 10-run, 10-hit 7th inning. Advertisement: the Angels won a 7-game World Series over the San Francisco Giants, with Spiezio's dramatic 3-run homer in the 7th inning highlighting a 6-5 come-from-behind victory in Game 6 and Anderson's 3-run double in the 3rd inning keying a 4-1 victory in Game 7. Scioscia chose the 24-year-old Lackey to start Game 7 over Ramon Ortiz. Lackey gave up 1 run on 4 hits in 5 innings. Donnelly, Rodriguez and Percival combined for 4 scoreless innings of relief. The Angels were champions. After hoisting the World Series trophy over his head, Scioscia handed the hardware to Salmon, who took it on a victory lap around Angel Stadium. Neither Scioscia, nor the Angels under him, would experience such joy again, but the fact that they were able to do so in 2002 was a credit to the manager. "We were a very blue-collar, nose-to-the-grindstone team, and he pushed all the right buttons with the hit and runs, the pinch hitting, the bullpen moves and the defensive replacements," Salmon said. "It was like he threw all the ingredients in a pot and they were brewing and brewing, and it all came together." Mike.DiGiovanna at LATimes.com. Twitter, @MikeDiGiovanna.